50 Cent got this new cross that I liked, and guess what I did? I made it. Why not? All right, it comes in different colors, styles. 50, thank you for the inspiration. You're a true gentleman. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure you won't mind. And then the black diamond one, this is my favorite one. This is what you want. It's on TraxNYC.com. I don't know where 50 got his, but I know where I got mine.
Where's my fucking money?
Max.
Where's my money? I got this fucking bracelet. Where's my fucking do, bitch? What are you gonna fucking do?
Max.
Doc, motherfucker. You say VVS, I3, 14 karat, and you're using my name, you bitch! You fucking thief! Bitch!
Stop! Take him out! Stop! Take him out!
You fucking bitch!
Yo, don't fucking Max.
Oh, they was wildin'.
Oh my god.
You ever see someone build a luxury empire, only for it to almost collapse overnight? Because that's exactly what happened when 50 Cent crossed paths with one of New York's most talked about jewelers, TraxNYC. At first, it looked like just another flashy jewelry brand riding the wave of hip-hop culture. Millions of followers, célébrité clients, diamonds, gold, and status on full display. But behind the shine, something didn't sit right. Then one post changed everything. A custom chain, a copy design, and a name being used without permission. What started as a simple call-out quickly turned into a multi-million-dollar legal war. We're talking federal lawsuits, public threats, and a reputation put on the line in front of millions. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any crazier, they did. Because while that legal battle was unfolding, something even bigger was brewing inside New York's Diamond District. Fake gold allegations, a 22,000 bracelet, a viral confrontation, and a fight that ended in arrests. This isn't just a story about jewelry. It's a story about power, image, and what really happens when the truth gets exposed. You ever notice how fast things can spiral when ego, money, and reputation all collide at the same time? Because that's exactly where this story really begins. Not with the fight, not with the arrests, but with the tension. See, TraxNYC wasn't just some random jewelry shop trying to make sales. This was a full-blown brand built for the internet age. Maksud Agajani, better known as Trax, had turned himself into a recognizable face in the jewelry world. Millions of followers, daily content, high-energy videos showing off chains, watches, diamonds, all designed to do one thing: grab attention and convert it into sales. And it worked. Rappers, influencers, even mainstream celebrities had all passed through a store at one point or another. The location itself added to the credibility, right in the heart of Manhattan's Diamond District. That strip on 47th Street isn't just a place, it's a symbol. If you're buying serious jewelry in New York, that's where you go. But here's the thing about building a brand on visibility. The more people see you, the more people start watching you. And sometime in mid-2024, one of those people just happened to be 50 Cent. Now, if you know anything about 50, you already understand this. He doesn't ignore things, especially when it comes to business. This is someone who turned every setback into leverage. Music, TV, liquor, investments. He treats his name like a corporation. And more importantly, he protects it like one. So when his face started popping up in TraxNYC's content, it didn't go unnoticed. At first, it might have looked harmless. A post here, a tag there, but then it kept happening. Videos featuring jewelry that looked suspiciously similar to pieces 50 had worn. Captions implying connection. Marketing that blurred the line between inspiration and association. And the more it showed up, the clearer the message became to anyone watching. This brand wanted people to believe there was a link. Now, from a marketing standpoint, it's obvious why. If you can attach your product to a name like 50 Cent, you instantly raise your perceived value. You're not just selling a chain anymore. You're selling the lifestyle that comes with it. The image, the success, the status. And for customers scrolling online, that kind of association is powerful. They don't always stop to question it. They assume it's real. That's where things start to get dangerous. Because there's a big difference between being inspired by someone and using their identity to move product. And eventually that line got crossed. there was one moment in particular that really pushed things over the edge. A video where Trax is holding up a cross chain, one that looks almost identical to a piece 50 Cent had been seen wearing. And instead of downplaying it, he leaned into it, basically admitting on camera that he recreated the style. Now, in most industries, that might not be a huge deal. Trends get copied all the time. But this isn't just fashion. It's custom jewelry tied to personal branding. When a piece is made specifically for someone like 50, it's not just about design. It's about identity. And that's what made this different. Because now it wasn't just about similar products. It was about perception. And perception is everything in a market like this. Around the same time, posts started surfacing where 50's image was directly used alongside product promotions. Not just subtle references, full-on marketing plays, tagging him publicly, suggesting involvement, presenting products in a way that made it seem like there was some kind of endorsement behind it. Whether intentional or not, the message to the audience was clear. This is connected. Now imagine your 50 Cent seeing that. Your face, your name, your brand being used to sell something you had nothing to do with. That's not just annoying. That's a business threat. And 50 doesn't let those slide. So before things went nuclear, he did what most people in his position would do first. He gave a warning. A public one. Short. Direct. No confusion about what it meant. Basically saying, this was a bad move, and it's going to come back on you. Now here's where things could have ended. Because at that moment, there was still an exit. Delete the posts. Clean up the messaging. Quietly move on. Problem solved. But that's not what happened. Instead of backing off, Trax responded. And not in a way that de-escalated the situation. He brushed it off. Told 50 he had bigger things to worry about. Now on the surface, that might sound like confidence. But in reality, that's gasoline on a fire. Because when you're dealing with someone like 50 Cent, dismissing a warning doesn't make the problem go away. It guarantees it's about to get bigger. Much bigger. And behind the scenes, that's exactly what was happening. Because while social media was going back and forth, legal teams were getting involved. Evidence was being collected. Posts were being documented. And every piece of content that used 50's image, name, or likeness was being looked at through one lens. Unauthorized commercial use. That's where this stops being internet drama and turns into a legal situation. A serious one. Because in the United States, your likeness isn't just part of your identity. It's intellectual property. And when someone uses that to sell a product without permission, it opens the door to lawsuits that can cost millions. And 50 knew exactly how to play that game. He's been in it before. He understands leverage. He understands timing. And most importantly, he understands impact. So while the public saw posts and responses, what they didn't see was what was coming next. Because this wasn't about clapping back online anymore. This was about making an example. And when it finally hit, it didn't come as a tweet. It came as paperwork. Federal paperwork. The kind that doesn't ask questions. It makes statements. And once that process starts, there's no controlling the narrative anymore. Because now it's not about opinions. It's about law. And that's the moment everything changed. Not just for TraxNYC, but for everyone watching. Because what looked like a marketing strategy was now being framed as something else entirely. And this was only the beginning. And when that paperwork finally hit, everything changed overnight. Because this wasn't some small claim or quiet legal warning behind closed doors. This was 50 Cent making a very public move. A federal lawsuit, filed through his company, detailed, structured, and aimed directly at Maksud Agajani and TraxNYC. Now, understand this. When something reaches federal court, it's no longer just a disagreement. It becomes a matter of record. Every claim, every example, every piece of evidence gets documented in a way that can't be spun or deleted. And according to the complaint, this wasn't just about one post or one chain. It was about a pattern. A pattern of using 50 Cent's name, image, and likeness to promote jewelry products without authorization. Not once, not twice, but repeatedly enough to create confusion among customers. That's the key word here, confusion. Because legally, that's where the real damage is measured. If people believe there's an official connection, if they think a celebrity is endorsing a product when they're not, that's where things cross the line into infringement. And the lawsuit made that argument very clear. It stated that replicas of a custom necklace, originally made specifically for 50, were being created and marketed in a way that suggested association. That customers were seeing these pieces online and assuming they were connected to him, which, from a legal standpoint, is a serious problem. Because now it's not just about copying a design. It's about leveraging someone else's identity to sell your product. And that's where the financial side comes in. The lawsuit wasn't asking for a small settlement. It was demanding at least $5 million in damages. Think about that for a second. $5 million over branding, likeness, and perceived association. That tells you how seriously this was being taken. Now for TraxNYC's side, things didn't slow down. If anything, they got louder. Instead of going quiet and letting lawyers handle it, Trax continued posting, continued talking, continued trying to control the narrative in public. At one point, he even tried to flip the tone completely. He went on camera holding a cross chain and started talking about forgiveness, about letting things go, about moving past conflict, almost like he was trying to appeal to emotion instead of law. But here's the issue with that approach. When you're already in a legal battle, emotion doesn't carry weight. Documentation does. And 50's response made that clear. Short, cold, direct. Basically saying, this isn't something you talk your way out of. You deal with it. And behind the scenes, the pressure was building. Because once a lawsuit like that is filed, it forces decisions. Fast ones. You either fight it, which means legal fees, time, and risk, or you resolve it, which usually means admitting something went wrong. And eventually, that's exactly what happened. By mid-2025, TraxNYC issued a public apology. Not vague, not indirect. Clear acknowledgement that 50 Cent's name, image, and likeness had been used without permission. Content was removed. Statements were made. The situation was addressed head-on. And after that, the lawsuit was dismissed. Just like that. No long courtroom battle. No drawn-out trial. From the outside, it might look like everything wrapped up clean. Issue raised. Issue resolved. But if you really look at it, that moment was bigger than it seemed. Because it set a precedent. It showed exactly what happens when branding lines get crossed in the digital age. When social media marketing turns into something that can be interpreted as misrepresentation. And more importantly, it put a spotlight on TraxNYC. A big one. Because now, millions of people weren't just seeing the brand as a jewelry business. They were seeing it through controversy, through legal action, through questions. And that kind of attention doesn't just disappear. It lingers. Now here's where the story takes a turn that nobody expected. Because while all of this was happening, the lawsuit, the apology, the headlines, there was something else developing in the background. Something that had nothing to do with 50 Cent directly, but had everything to do with the environment TraxNYC was operating in. The Diamond District. That stretch of 47th Street in Manhattan isn't just competitive, it's intense. Dozens of jewelers operating side by side. Similar products, similar pitches. Everyone trying to capture the same customers walking through those doors. And in a place like that, reputation becomes currency. If your name carries weight, people come looking for you specifically. They walk in asking for your brand, your pieces, your designs. And according to what started surfacing online, that's exactly what created the next problem. Because there were claims, serious ones, that customers walking into the building asking for TraxNYC were being intercepted, redirected, told that certain pieces weren't available, but alternatives were. Same quality, same gold, same craftsmanship. At least, that's what they were being told. Now, if that's true, think about what that means. It means someone could walk in expecting one thing and walk out with something completely different without realizing it. And in the jewelry world, that difference matters a lot because not all gold is equal. Not all diamonds are equal. And unless you test it, you're relying entirely on trust. That's where things started to get uncomfortable because one case in particular began circulating. A customer with a bracelet, expensive one, over $20,000, sold as 14-karat gold, high quality, premium product. But when it was tested, it didn't match. It came back as 10-karat, lower gold content, lower value. And that gap? That's not small. That's the difference between what you paid for and what you actually received. Now here's the important part. At this stage, these were still allegations. Not court-proven facts. But the way they were presented, that's what made them explode. Because instead of staying behind closed doors, it was put on camera. Receipt shown. Test performed. Reaction captured in real time. And once something like that hits the internet, it spreads fast. Really fast. Suddenly, this wasn't just about one customer. People started asking bigger questions. How often does this happen? How many pieces out there aren't what they claim to be? How many buyers never test what they purchase? And just like that, the focus shifted away from the lawsuit, away from 50 Cent, and directly onto the integrity of the entire environment. Because now it wasn't just about branding anymore. It was about trust. And once trust gets questioned in a market built on perception, everything starts to feel unstable. And what happened next? That's where things went from controversy to chaos. And this is where everything finally exploded. Because up until this point, it was all building pressure, lawsuits, allegations, online back and forth. But now, it was about to happen in real life. Face to face. New Year's Day, 2026. While most people were recovering from the night before, Max said Agajani, Trax, was doing the exact opposite. He was posting, putting everything out there. The bracelet, the receipt, the gold test, laying out the entire situation for the internet to see. And within hours it took off. Views climbing fast. Comments flooding in. People picking sides without hesitation. Some believed him, some didn't. But everyone was watching. And instead of letting it sit online, Trax made a decision that changed everything. He went in person, straight back to the Diamond District. Camera rolling. No middleman. No delay. He walked directly up to the booth where the bracelet was allegedly sold and demanded answers. Right there, in the middle of the store. Now, think about the environment for a second. Tight aisles. Dozens of businesses packed next to each other. Customers walking through. Security nearby. Everyone within earshot. This isn't a place where quiet conversations happen. So when Trax stepped in, holding that bracelet, holding that receipt, it got loud immediately. Voices raised. Accusations thrown out in real time. He's pointing at the piece, calling it out, demanding the money back, saying the quality didn't match what was promised. And all of it being recorded. That's what made this different. Because now it wasn't just a claim online. It was confrontation. Unfiltered. And once a crowd starts forming in a place like that, things escalate fast. People started gathering. Other jewelers stepping out of their booths. Customers stopping to watch. Phones coming out. Because everyone knew something big was happening. For a moment, it looked like it might calm down. Security stepped in. People tried to separate them. But that didn't last. Because Trax came back. Still pushing. Still demanding an answer. And that's when the situation crossed a line. One of the men involved allegedly spit in his face. Right there. On camera. And in that moment, everything changed. Because once something like that happens, it's no longer business. It's personal. And the reaction was immediate. What followed wasn't an argument anymore. It was a fight. Shoving. Swinging. Chaos breaking out in a space that's usually all about polished displays and quiet deals. People jumping in from different directions. Trying to pull them apart. So making it worse. The entire scene turning into something nobody expected to see inside one of the most well-known jewelry hubs in the country. And by the time it was over, the damage was done. Trax later posted images showing marks on his neck, saying someone tried to choke him with his own chain. A hit to the head. Claims that things went way beyond just a scuffle. Whether every detail plays out exactly like that or not, that part would be up to investigations. But one thing was confirmed. Police got involved. And when law enforcement steps into a situation like that, it moves into a completely different category. This isn't social media anymore. This is criminal. Two individuals, identified as George and Freddie A., were taken into custody and charged with assault. Handcuffs. Cameras. The whole thing. And just like that, the story went viral. Everywhere. Clips spreading across platforms within hours. People replaying the moment. Breaking it down. Arguing over who was right, who was wrong, who started it, who escalated it. And now, the situation had layers. Because it wasn't just about the fight. It wasn't just about the bracelet. It wasn't even just about TraxNYC anymore. It became something bigger. A spotlight on the entire system. Because think about what people were seeing all at once. A jeweler who had just dealt with a federal lawsuit involving 50 Cent. Now, standing in the middle of the Diamond District, accusing another business of misrepresenting gold quality. Backed by test, followed by a physical altercation, ending in arrests. That combination, it hit different, because it raised a question that goes beyond one incident. How much of this happens that nobody sees? How many transactions happen every day where buyers just trust what they're told? No testing, no verification, just reputation. And in a place where reputation drives everything. That's a risk. Now to be clear, on the other side, there were denials. Claims that the situation wasn't being represented accurately. Footage suggesting the customer may have visited multiple booths before making a purchase. Different versions of the story starting to surface. And that's important, because until something is proven in court, it remains an allegation. But here's the reality. In the court of public opinion, the damage doesn't wait for a verdict. It happens instantly. And that's exactly what played out. Because now, whether people believed every detail or not, trust had already been shaken. Not just in one business, but in the entire environment. The Diamond District, long known as the center of high-end jewelry in the US, was now being discussed in a completely different way. Not just luxury, not just status, but risk, uncertainty, doubt. And once those ideas enter the conversation, they're hard to remove. At the same time, TraxNYC shifted position from being the one under legal pressure to becoming the one preparing to take legal action. Because after the confrontation, after the alleged assault, the focus flipped. Now it wasn't just about defending a brand. It was about going on offense. Lawsuits, claims, counterclaims. And this situation, far from over. Because what started as a marketing controversy turned into a legal battle, then into a public accusation of fraud, and finally into a real-world confrontation that crossed into criminal territory, all within a relatively short span of time. And that kind of escalation, it doesn't happen by accident. It happens when multiple pressure points collide at once. Ego, money, reputation, and exposure. Every single one of those was in play here. And when they all hit at the same time, you get exactly this. A situation where nobody walks away untouched. Not the brands, not the people involved, and definitely not the industry watching it unfold. Because whether you believe Trax, whether you believe the other side, or whether you think the truth is somewhere in the middle, one thing is clear. This wasn't just drama. It was a wake-up call. For customers, for businesses, for anyone moving in a space where perception can be more powerful than reality. Because at the end of the day, gold is supposed to be tested. Diamonds are supposed to be verified. And reputations? They're supposed to be earned, not assumed. And when those lines get blurred, this is what it looks like when everything unravels in public. If there's one thing this entire situation proves, it's this. What you see online isn't always what you get in real life. From a multi-million-dollar legal battle involving 50 Cent to fraud allegations, to a real-world confrontation that ended in arrests, this story had everything. But more importantly, it exposed something bigger than just one brand or one incident. It exposed how easy it is to trust the image without ever questioning the product. So before you ever spend serious money on jewelry or anything tied to status, make sure you verify what you're buying. Don't rely on hype. Don't rely on association. Check the facts for yourself. And if you found this breakdown valuable, make sure you stay locked in. Because stories like this, they're happening more often than you think. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop your thoughts below. Whose side are you on? Because this conversation is far from over.